I'm looking around again, shaking, just out of my mind, out of my mind. And my boyfriend's over here talking to, I believe it was Haley came over. Haley, she came over with another friend of hers who was also sober. And I turn around and they're smiling. You know, I could tell they're sober, and I wanted so badly to be them. I wanted so badly to be them. And they're both looking at me with huge smiles on their faces because they're expecting me to like enjoy this drug that everyone enjoys, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, how is it? And I still remember Haley. I still remember what she was wearing. I still remember the guy that she was with, you know, as a friend, just hanging out. I still remember the way they looked at me. I could see that there was something wrong because when they saw my face, their face changed. The guy's face was just like, he wasn't weirded out, but he was more trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Like, it freaked him out a little bit. And then Haley too, she was like, Gabby, what's wrong? Like, what do you see? Because they said, oh, do you like it? And I was just like this, you know, or however my hands were. And I was just like, you know? And she's like, what do you see? And I just kept going like this. I couldn't say anything. So then they were weirded out because they're like, what's wrong with her, you know? And my boyfriend has no clue either because he's having a great time on acid. We're in two completely different worlds. He's seeing like rainbows and butterflies probably, and I'm not. So at this point, I don't remember. I don't know what happened because it was so long. Time was not a thing. Time was irrelevant. It was not real to me in that moment. I was still trying to, you know, have them enjoy their night. So I think everyone, you know, we went to go get tacos, and it's still on that main street, but I'm still tripping in my own mind. Who knows what I saw? I don't think my mind was able to comprehend once again. So when they were eating tacos, we were kind of in this area where if you look right, it's another street you can go down. But I swore that there was like everything was out to get me. Like, it just wanted to kill me. So I swore that there was this car coming out of it, just like wanted to run me over. And then it was gone. But I saw it. I felt, you know, I felt the terror of it like coming at me, and I like braced myself for it. And then I looked again and it was gone. So I was like, what the heck? Okay. They're eating their tacos, and all of a sudden I kind of start like going like this, like freaking out. Like, give me water, give me water. Like I was sweating. I could literally feel myself burning in hell. I can literally feel myself going down. Or my world was going up and I was going down, and it was getting hot as I went down. And again, that white noise and in the whispers and everything. So my friend would give me water and I would chug it, and as I chugged it, I would come back. Like I could literally feel, you know, I wasn't so consumed anymore. I would drink the water and I would come out of it and be like, oh my god, okay. Like, if I didn't have water, I don't know what the heck would have happened. Like, I look back and I don't know. So that's happening. Happened a few times. It freaked them out too, because they're like, okay, and I would physically be sweating. And then they were trying to get me to the car, because at this point they're like, we need to take her home. We don't know what's happening to her, but we need to take her home. So they tried dragging me to my boyfriend's truck. But as they were dragging me, I would get all these thoughts in my mind like, oh my gosh, am I actually with my friends? Or, you know, I felt like people were dragging me into hell. I felt like they were not only dragging me to hell, but I felt like they were dragging me into a deeper part of hell. So I was scared. I would let them drag me so far, and then I would stop, and then I would trip. I would look at things. I would let them drag me again, and then I would stop. Then I would trip at things again for like who knows how long. And so that process went on for a very long time, I'm sure. I haven't heard it from their perspective yet, so I really want to ask them. But finally, we got to the truck. My boyfriend's truck scared the heck out of me because he had a huge lifted black truck. And not only was it huge, it was so loud. It was so loud. When he turned it on, I was like terrified. Look at, I'm like, I was terrified of it. So I don't know how long it took me to get in the car. But I got in the car. At this point, again, I'm just more gone than ever. So I'm looking at him while he's driving. And I'm so over it at this point, mentally. I think I'm so over it. So I'm kind of just laying there, tripping. And then I look at him super slowly. And he was just a demon the whole time. He was a demon the whole time driving me. I look back at my friend in the back seat. She was like a green witch. But I knew that it was her. But I was just over it to the point where I just took it, And I'm just like, whatever. Like, this is it. And I never thought I was going to come out of it. I thought it was going to be a forever thing. So the only songs that calmed me down to where I didn't hear, these demonic things anymore, was Bob Marley. So I told my boyfriend to put on Bob Marley reggae, and the whole time it was playing, I was fine. I was fine, but I was still tripping. I remember when we were driving, I think that was the craziest thing too, because I didn't see anything demonic anymore at that point in the car outside. But I swear the streets looked like someone was shuffling a deck of cards. Like, that's how fast I would see the streets. So that's how fast everything was going for me. So imagine that. Like, your world's like, And that's how fast I was seeing the streets. And I had no clue where I was at because I saw every street it looked like in the world. And then eventually we were home. And then if the music would stop, like if it would just pause to change the next song, I would completely freak out, because I'd be resting like this and the song would stop and I'd be like, oh my God, because then I'd be back in that place where I didn't want to be. So they would have to repeat and repeat and repeat the song because nothing helped me. And then we got into the house. I remember my boyfriend had a dog, a huge German Shepherd, I think it is. I don't know. Forgive me if that's not the right dog. I'm not a huge dog person. So it's a huge dog, and terrified of it because it looked like a monster that wanted to eat me. Like, literally, I'm not kidding. So he had to kick out the dog because he could tell that I was terrified of it. I would literally pull the blankets over my head and I was shaking. But before that, my two sober girlfriends were there. I went into the restroom, and I'm kind of coming back. Kind of. Not really, but kind of. So I'm in the restroom, and I'm looking at this little turtle decoration they had in the house, and all these gems were just coming out at me, and I'm staring at it. I'm just stuck at it because I'm like, how? And my two girlfriends walk in, and I'm able to talk at this point. I still was not able to tell them where I was, I don't think. I don't remember. But they both come in. Haley has her arms crossed. And Yasmin's more just kind of irritated at this point. But, I think it's just because she was scared for me too. So I looked at them, to the side, deep into their eyes too. I hope they remember. I said, I love you guys. I love you guys so much. Please do not ever do this. Please do not ever do this drug. Please. And they're like, okay, because I was super sure. They're like, Gabby, what's wrong? What do you see? And I think I did tell them. I think I said I went to hell. And they didn't know what to say to that. Because if you think about it, people talk about heaven and hell a lot. But it's still something that people don't really, really talk about. They don't know how to wrap their heads around what hell is and what it would be like and things like that, or what's there. So when I said that, I don't even think they had a response. I don't remember. And then I sat on the floor, and I think I started crying. I don't remember. But I was really just trying to come back. So I would stare at one thing for a very long time, just trying to focus on it, because that was the one thing I can comprehend that was real. I didn't want to look anywhere else. I didn't care. So they left me in there, and it was fine. It was a little bit more fine at that point. So it was fine that they let me go. I think Yasmin was standing actually on the left side of me before she went out. But the part that really, really freaked me out was when my boyfriend's mom came to the door. She was in the hallway and she was just in the door of the restroom. And we've never spoke. We've never interacted. We've never looked at each other. But that was the one time she looked at me and she stood there. And it was the one time I felt connected to her. It was the one time I knew that she understood me or I understood her. And that is so scary because it's not her. It was the spirit in her. Because everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. It was a spirit in her. So looking back, I'm like, oh my, and this is why I pray so heavily for that family, because I know the Lord wants that family. I know the Lord wants that family. And I cry sometimes thinking about my ex because, you know, I love him as a person. I do. And I pray for him a lot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they need to be saved. They do. They need to be saved. That family needs salvation so bad. And anyways, moving on. So I'm coming down a little bit more. I go lay down in the bed and I cannot talk. My boyfriend's laying next to me and I have to text to talk. Because now I'm still seeing things, but like I'm a little bit more sober, you know. Now it's just like, oh, I look at something and it moves a little bit, you know. So I was coming back, but I could not speak for the life of me. So I would text. He was literally laying right next to me. I mean, I couldn't talk, so I had to text, and I would say something like, that was terrible, and I would show it to him, and he would he would text, and I would be like, you don't have to text, I could hear you, I just can't talk. So the reason I couldn't talk was because I was traumatized. So moving on to the next thing. Gosh, this is so long, I'm so sorry. I knew it was going to be long because there's no way you can shorten this. There's no way. If you made it this far, thank you so much, because obviously this is hitting you in some way where you're curious as to how the Lord saves and how glorious and wonderful he is, which he is. And if any of you have ever been on drugs or have had a terrible experience like I've had, or have seen the things I've seen, I really do feel for you, because after that drug and the ecstasy, you know, together, because I was in so much trauma, I went into a really deep depression, and then I also had PTSD. I never got, you know, I never went to like the hospital and had a doctor tell me I had PTSD. It was just obvious. Like, I don't need someone to tell me that I have PTSD for me to know that I have PTSD. You know, I would be driving and just out of nowhere, you know, I'd be like normal, be driving at night, and then all of a sudden it was like I was on acid all over again, but like on the road driving. And that's so scary because you're driving, there's cars around you, you're on the freeway, you're going, like, the only way I was able to stay calm in that moment was to look at my speed gauge, because I was like, okay, like, I'm at 60, I'm good, like, this is normal, I'm just gonna try to follow the lines as best as possible. But when it would happen to me, it felt like the road was driving me, so I felt like I didn't have control over it, so it was really scary. Or if I would hear certain noises, I don't know, like certain noises in terms of like a fan or like cars driving by, anything that my brain remembered from that trip, I would trip again. And then the anxiety would overtake me. Like, not just like mild anxiety, it was always at like 100, always. So it was really hard because I'd be calm, and then you hear something, it's like a trigger, you know, whatever, a car driving by, it triggers, and then that'd be like skyrocket to 100 of anxiety, and then hearing everything all over again. And it was terrible. And this went on for a year and a half, 2 years, I think, nonstop, almost every single day. There'd be days where I would just be laying in my boyfriend's bed, and I think he'd be at work or something, and I'd be home, and I knew that I hadn't like drank anything. I hadn't really, meaning like alcoholic, like nothing like that at all. No one was home with me. I FaceTime my mom and I would just be like, Mom, tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm okay. You know, tell me that I'm not on drugs. Please tell me. And she's like, Gabby, you're fine. Because there would be times where I literally thought that I was on drugs, like someone drugged me. It was just like this memory in my head or this feeling. And I would legitimately feel like someone drugged my drink, or which didn't make sense to me because I'm like, I didn't drink anything. Like, you know? So it was really, really hard. And I would FaceTime her all the time. And I would be like, Mom, you know, crying, like, what is this? And what can she do, you know? And I'm sure it was hard for her to see too, but yeah, it was really, really bad. I don't know how to explain a feeling. It's an experience. It really, really is. It's not something that you can explain. I'm trying my very best to. But let's get to the part of Jesus coming in. So I'm living with my boyfriend still. One day, there was one day where I got into the shower. And so I get into the shower. It's basically just like another normal day. I didn't expect anything to happen. It was nighttime and I'm getting ready for bed. My boyfriend's in the room, laying down, watching TV. I get in the shower and I was just trying really, really hard to have some peace, like in my mind, in my heart, just anything. I didn't want to be sad anymore. I didn't want to feel anything that I was feeling. I didn't want to be in darkness. I didn't want to be depressed. I don't know if I already said that, but basically I just didn't want to feel any of that. So I just typed in on YouTube like peaceful music. I don't know, like peaceful meditation music, so I can listen to it while I was in the shower, so I can just shut everything out and just focus on this soft music. So that's exactly what I did. So when I did that, I put it on like the highest volume ever. I got into the shower and I put my hands out, you know, I just stood there under the water. I stood in like anatomical position. That basically means like your hands are, you know, your palms are face out, and I'm just standing there in the shower. And I'm breathing, like I'm really just trying to like just focus on my breathing, just trying to calm my anxiety. I close my eyes, I put my head back, and I'm just breathing, like just super soft, but really focused. Like and then all of a sudden I went into the most peaceful state. But then Jesus encountered me in the shower. And I don't really know how to explain it, but I started to, I came out of my body. Like I can still physically feel myself breathing, but I wasn't there anymore. My eyes are still closed. My hands are still out. At this point, I'm breathing really hard because I wasn't scared. It was just the glory of the light that I saw. I was being lifted into this really, really beautiful light. And I believe it was my body, you know. I was being surrounded by this light. And the higher I went, you know, I would still be spinning. I was spinning and spinning, and I was going higher and higher into this light. And I would surrender to it the higher that I went. You know, like my neck would go all the way back. I was super tense. I was breathing really, really hard. And eventually I got to like the very top of where the Lord wanted me to be. I don't know. I don't really understand it, but these huge wings came out of me, I guess. I mean, that's how I comprehended it. And within that experience, I heard the Lord say my name while I was in that encounter. And his voice is very deep. It's very loud. It's not scary. He says it in a very like smooth way, but it's just so interesting because it's like, how can a deep, strong, thunderous voice be so calming? And it's like, because he's Jesus, and that's just how he is. So that happened. I don't know how long I had that encounter. It felt really fast, but I think it was like 30 minutes. And then I opened my eyes and I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do because I haven't heard about Jesus in a long time. No one's ever told me about an experience like that. I felt crazy, first of all. I didn't know who to run to. I knew I heard his voice, but I was skeptical just because then you come back to reality and you're like, what the heck just happened, you know? So, but I knew it was different because, yes, it was a supernatural experience, but it wasn't like from hell when I was on drugs. This was just me having a normal shower, and then the Lord encounters me with this beautiful light. But the amazing part is, when I was standing there, I knew that my trauma was gone, and I knew that my anxiety was gone, and I knew that my depression was gone. I knew that my PTSD was gone, and I was kind of searching for it. Like, once I got out the shower, I was like, oh my God, I don't feel it anymore, you know? And that's how beautiful and amazing the Lord is, because he already died for the things you are suffering with, so you don't have to suffer. So he took all of those things in a millisecond within that encounter. He just took them all like they were gone. I never felt that ever again till this day. I've never had a really bad anxiety attack like that. Never. I've never had depression like that again. I've never had PTSD. Just nothing at all. So I came out and I was smiling. I came out of the shower smiling for the first time in 2 years, like a genuine smile. And I remember walking into the room where my boyfriend was laying, and everything felt different because I didn't know. I didn't tell him. I don't think I told him what had happened to me. I walked in and I just looked at him like, should I tell him? Probably not, you know. And then I still went on, obviously, living in my sinful life because I didn't know what to do after that, you know. And then I think I told my grandma, like, oh my God, I heard Jesus, you know, I heard the Lord. And if you're a Christian, and even if you're not, I'll explain, the Holy Spirit can speak to you. So he'll put like an image in your mind or a word in you to reveal things to you. So when I got out of that encounter, I heard spiritual awakening. I've never heard that word in my life. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. I don't know why I'm hearing that. But now I know, looking back, that it was the Holy Spirit, but I didn't know that at the time. So I look up spiritual awakening, you know, on my own time, and it takes me to all of this new age stuff. It takes me down the wrong path. So that's why the story is so long, because then I also got into new age. New age is it is such a lie. It's such a lie. It's very deceptive. I thought everything that I was learning from it was real, and it was because I had that experience and because what I looked up took me that way. When really I should have went to a Christian and, you know, asked them what spiritual awakening was. But, you know, that's how the devil works. He'll just lead you another way when he knows the Lord is after you. So then I go down this new age deception for like 6 months. But before that, I had the strength to leave my boyfriend because I knew it was the right thing and I knew it was time. And it was really, really hard because he had just lost his mom from drugs and alcohol. Like, I was there when he found out his mom passed away, and I watched her, you know, and I just knew his life because I walked in when it just got really bad, and then I saw it end. And I believe that's why I was there, was for him to just be able to cope. And even though it was a lot of suffering for me, I'm sure it was for him in different ways, but I also believe that if I wasn't there for him, I don't know how he would have lived. I just really don't. I don't know. I really think the Lord sent me as an angel to him. And I know that he would attest to that, because there are a lot of things that he learned from me and a few things I learned from him, but maybe it was just really opposite lessons that we learned. So I knew I had to leave him. I knew it was going to hurt the both of us, and it was really sad because although my motives were wrong in the beginning, I actually really did end up loving this person, and I really thought that I was going to marry this person, and I thought we were going to build something together, and I really ended up loving him. But we just weren't for each other. He's a great person, but he wasn't my person, so it disappointed me. Just seeing certain sides of somebody that you just didn't expect. And I know we all have a bad and good side, but whatever, he just wasn't my person. And I knew that, and I knew I had to leave. I could tell that the season was over. I tried to leave before, but there were moments where he would not let me. So, and I was kind of scared of him, so I wouldn't leave, and I didn't have the strength or the courage to stand up to him. But when you meet the Lord puts all of those things in you because they come from him. So one day we were fighting, because we fought almost every single day at one point, and I just looked at him and I was kind of just over it. And I told him, I don't remember verbatim, like word for word, but I told him, I'm leaving you and you're not going to stop me. However I said it, but I stood up to him, and he looked at me like, wow, she's really serious, and he didn't bother me. He didn't try to stop me like last time. And in that moment, I'm reminded of when we have to face our giants, and I believe it was David and Goliath, when David had to stand up to this huge giant and throw, a stone at him. I think it was like 3 stones or something, for that giant to fall. And that's what it felt like for me in that moment. That's exactly what I'm reminded of. So I just left. I left within like an hour. I never looked back since. And this was in 2017. I left him in December 2017. And I know that sounds really sad and terrible, but there were times where we caught up and we talked about it like adults. And I said, this has to happen. I know it hurts right now, but it's going to be good for you and I in the long run. I know you don't see it right now, but I promise you. And I knew it really would be good, and it hurt the both of us. I cried once, and I think it tripped him out because I only cried once, but it was never in front of him. I cried once I got to the house that I left in the first place, came back 2 years later, which is where I'm at still. And he cried, and while I was leaving, packing my stuff, it was really sad. It really was sad, but I think I was in shock about what was going on, so I didn't have an emotion to it. I just had clothes and like a vanity, so I took it all and I left. And I don't think I ever said bye, but we caught up later, so we did say bye eventually. But I came to my house, which is where I'm recording at right now, and I parked. And my dad still had a room here for me. So I came into the room and I just brought like my few trash bags in. I sat on the bed, and that was the moment I was able to comprehend what the heck just happened in my life. And I just bawled my eyes out really, really hard for like 10 minutes. And that was the one and only last time I ever cried about that situation. It was like a huge release at one time. So, going back to the New Age, I don't remember if I had a job at the time. All I know is that I got really, really deep into New Age. I read books about it. Most of all, I watched tons of videos on it. A lot of people, that's why it makes it deceiving, because there are people who go through the same things that you're going through in New Age. So a lot of people were talking about it. Everything that I was reading and learning, they all agreed. So I figured, well, this has to be real. And don't get me wrong, when you go through experiences in New Age, they're real, but they're not from the Lord. You are interacting with demonic spirits, and you're channeling things that are not from Jesus. They're from the devil. And it's really, really not okay. And it's very deceiving. And people think that it would be like, scary like hell, like I saw. But the thing about New Age is that the devil likes to make things look pretty and sound good, and he likes to twist things. And that's why deception is so scary, because you will not know that you are in deception until the Lord opens your eyes, or until someone reveals light on that darkness. And sometimes people are not open to it, and that's a scary thing, because they're forever going to be in deception. And there are a lot of people in deception today with New Age and the occult, because it's everywhere. It's in Barnes and Noble, it's in a lot of bookstores, it's in like any store, you know, t-shirts about it. You know, like I'm wearing a t-shirt that has to do with the Lord. There's a lot of t-shirts out there that have to do with like chakras and this and that and the other. And I got super into that. I used to go get my chakras read and everything. And I think I did it like twice. I did them like 6 months apart from each other. And I was just like really into it. I started to get into tarot. I didn't ever do tarot, but I would go to Barnes and Noble, and I would mess with them, you know. I would mess with them at Barnes and Noble. I would never buy them though. But for 6 months straight, I watched tarot, like people do tarot, all day, from the minute I woke up to the minute I fell asleep. And I was just like consumed by it. Because when you're seeking for something in New Age, that's the problem, because you're never going to be fulfilled, because the devil cannot fulfill you. Those things cannot fulfill you. The only thing, and the only person, by the way, that can ever fulfill any kind of void in you is Jesus Christ himself. And that is why when you meet people that truly have met the Lord and who know him, are happy and joyful, because he is everything pure, just, and holy. But when it comes to the devil, he's just going to lead you absolutely nowhere. Sin leads to death. Sin is death. So when I was in those things, I'm just like seeking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need more. Oh my gosh, I need more. You know, I could never just like sit there. So they were all like 2 hours long, and I would watch them for 6 months straight. Can you imagine how many videos that is, of just like letting these open doors? And you know, and then my grandma would always tell me, you know, because I'd be like, no, I'm fine. But she knew exactly what it was, because again, I come from a Christian household, so they're educated and all this stuff. I'm like, no, I'm fine, like this is real. You know, I started to deny that I heard the Lord. And one of my aunts all the way in Tennessee prayed for me. And then I don't know, eventually the Lord opened my eyes to that as well. And I bawled my eyes out once again, because I felt extremely shameful. I felt stupid. I was like teaching on these things. I was making videos on these things on Instagram, people who knew me, and I was so confident in it, and I just sounded so stupid. And that's just the point of the enemy. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's in John 10:10, if you don't know where that's at. And, you know, you're like, steal, kill, and destroy what? Like anything. He doesn't care. Your family, you, your children, your life. Like, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care. The devil really does not care. And so he saved me from that. The night I threw away all my crystals and everything, my aunt had called me. She said she had just prayed for me the night before. So that's how strong prayer is. And I never looked back. I know who the Lord is. I love him with all my heart. I want to go deeper with him every single day. I'm not perfect. There are days I forget to be with him, but most of the time I know that I do make the effort to get with the Lord, and I worship him. And there's times where I get on my face and I'm like, Lord, I don't want to ask you for anything. I don't even want to talk. I literally just want to worship you, because you are worthy. You are worthy. Like, seeing where I was and seeing where I'm at, my life may not look like how I want it to look, but thank you that it doesn't look like it used to, because you met me in the pit. And that is what so many people are craving, is to fill that void. And I'm telling you, the Lord is the only one who can fill that void. And if you're in New Age, I know you probably have a lot of questions, because I get it. I was in New Age too. It's very hard, you know. People, you know, for me, I'd be like, well, what about twin flames, and what about all this crap? It's junk. It's stupid. It's not real. It's a lie. The devil is a father of liars. The Lord cannot lie. He's not a liar. His word is 100% truth. Even if you don't understand it, the Holy Spirit will give you supernatural understanding if you ask him. It says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And that's the place where I'm at right now. The Lord's really been speaking to me about the fear of the Lord. And the fear of the Lord is not being scared of him. It's being so in love with him that you hate the things he hates and you love the things he loves. And it's not coming from a place of legalism. It's coming from a place of love. It's because you're in love with him. You can say no because of your religion, or you can say no because of love, and there's a difference. And a lot of people have only met legalism and religion nowadays, you know. And I talked about that in one of my last videos. You know, Jesus hated religion because it's not about that. It's just about loving him, falling in love with him. And as you do that, as you dwell in him, as you abide in him, he abides in you, and all of those things you struggle with will eventually begin to disintegrate. So I'm so thankful, and I'm so sorry that this was so long, but I really hope that this helps somebody. If you made it this far, seriously, God bless you. I know that the Lord is going to do a great work in you, because if you made it this far, there's something in you that that needed to hear this, and I hope the Holy Spirit spoke to you through this somehow, some way. I hope it gave you hope 100%, because Jesus is true hope, and Satan will never lead you to true hope ever. You know, there were things that I was experiencing, you know, especially with like law of attraction and all of these things. Not saying that doesn't work. Again, it works to an extent, but it's not from the Lord. The devil can give you things too. The deepest desires of your heart, he can give them to you, but they're not from God. So good luck. So anyways, that is basically it. I'm trying to think of like other experiences that I had within that, but I've never felt so free in my life. There's a season I'm in my life, right? There's a season I'm in currently in my life where it's 100% faith, and I'm just gonna make a separate video about that because it's gonna be way too long. This is way too long already. But I love you guys. God bless you. I hope the Lord just radically encounters you like he radically encountered me, and you are going to be extremely blessed forever and ever, and you are going to impact the generations after you, and it's going to be amazing. But most of all, you are also going to be blessed, and you're going to fall in love, and you're going to know the things of the kingdom. He's going to become your husband, as you can see. Like literally, I married him and I love him, and I'm trying to get to that new level of just being deeply in fear and in awe of the Lord. So love you guys, and God bless.